We're all a little depraved and debaucherous. Here is the king of podcasts.
Welcome to the program. It's going to be a pretty serious subject tonight. Depraved and debaucherous. This program, it's made me kind of reflect on a lot of things in my own life and a lot of things when it comes to, dating relationships and just how some people, if they're emotionally ready or emotionally intelligent to be in a relationship, if they're ready to go and jump into that. And this is where we always learn about the fact that where men base a lot of decisions on logic, women will base a lot of decisions on emotion. And this is very obvious in the point of what we saw along with me and some other millions of people that decided to go and pluck down $80 million this weekend to watch It Ends With Us. Now, Friday night, I went to the movie theater and I was going to go see Borderlands. It was not good. It got panned. It didn't make much money. It's a bomb, by the way, in the box office. Don't go see it. It's watchable. Wait for it for streaming. Okay. But everybody that was really there, it wasn't filmed much for Deadpool and Wolverine. When I asked the folks at the managers, I was like, is this still for Deadpool? Like the crowd that was here, 3 weeks later after Deadpool's come out, or 2 weeks later, like, no, this is It Ends With Us. Really? And I was recognizing in the concession stand, there's about a good 50 people that are waiting in line for concessions, mostly women. And they told me every showtime is sold out. I had another movie I was going to watch on Saturday, and I was like, I'm canceling it. I'm going to watch It Ends With Us, because I always saw the trailer for months. For months I saw it. And I was kind of interested in it already. I was like, am I going to go and watch it in the theaters? Like, I don't know. It's like kind of a romantic, the romantic movies I'm not really much into, but I did not know about the book. Now, I knew it was based on a book series. I learned about that. I didn't know how the book actually ended out. So I was completely oblivious to it. But yes, there was a book that was actually written, part of a series from Colleen Hoover 2 years ago. And there's a review I'm going to bring up about that and how the book was reviewed compared to how the movie was reviewed this weekend. But I saw mostly women in my theater. It was a pretty good sized theater. So like I probably had about 120 some odd people in there. And it was probably at least a good 100. I might have been only 5 or 6 men that were in the theater at that showing. But it sold out pretty well. I got a lot to say about it because of the movie itself. Remember, there are no spoilers because there was a book based on it. And if you know about the book, then you would have known about the movie. You would just need to see how this movie was portrayed. There's a lot to it. But yeah, this is one of those movies that, for this program, I thought it was very important to talk about. Let's get right into it. Psychology Today. I was expecting something from them to bring up this movie. And this is where it comes from. So the psychological analysis of What Ends With Us. And the story is What It Ends With Us Gets Wrong. So they explain, this is Isabel Morley, a psychiatrist, says is an accurate portrayal of abuse, except for this one thing. They talk about that the film makes it seem easy to leave an abusive relationship when in reality it's usually very difficult. Okay, and this is the part I'm going to probably be a little bit in contention with as this story goes along. But when I look at this, I'm just going to read the notes I took as this movie was going on. Yeah, I know I'm one of those people. I couldn't help myself, but I had to go ahead and take notes down because I wanted to bring up some of the points. So this is from a guy's perspective. I spoke with nobody else about this. Who am I going to talk to about this? Who am I going to go to talk about It Ends With Us? I don't have any female friends I would talk about this with, and I would never just go into this, in general. It's like, this is a pretty tough subject. So like I understand women talking to women about this, but men, I don't know. We're going with this, so I figured this program would be just as good as any. We know that Lily, Blake Lively's character, she basically falls in love with a homeless guy that we learn a lot about, Atlas, which is basically the high school sweetheart. And this guy, she felt very fond of. First of all, she's a people pleaser. Well, I've learned from what I saw in the movie of her. And she couldn't help herself but help out this kid that she saw living in an abandoned house, and the reasons why he was living in an abandoned house like he did we learn a lot about it. I'm not going to go into the whole details with that. But the thing is that I get the appeal of Atlas. I get the appeal of him. It sounds like a pretty upstanding guy. Decided to go to the Marines. Decided to go to the military. He comes back, and they're in small town Maine. Lily, is a person of note because her and her mom basically have to go and play up to this narcissistic, abusive scumbag of a mayor dad that dies at the start of the movie. And then the chance encounter that Lily runs into Ryle, right? This narcissistic hunk, which I put it down in my notes. The narcissistic hunk, has the chance encounter, and he's working hard just to try to get a one-night stand out of her. In this story, that chance encounter says a lot about everything. Because we said, she just came back from the funeral. She's not in any condition of anything. So if she wanted to have a little romp with, neurosurgeon hunk narcissist Ryle here, I wouldn't have thought twice about it. But the truth is that that's all it should have been. If she wanted to let the guy fuck her, okay, fine. But that's all it should have been. Nothing more. This is the part that's weird because I also think about when they meet up again. Okay? Because when they run into each other again, okay, it's the sister that gets the job or finds a way to get in there and kind of finds her way to get a job with Lily at the flower shop, right? And then all of a sudden Ryle comes in. Oh, yeah, this is my brother. I felt like it was a setup. I felt like he was stalking her and he was using his family to get in close on her. Like he still had something because he knew her first, middle, and last name. So it wasn't hard for him to go and find out where she was. So I see that right there. I'm like, oh, this can become kind of a setup. And I kept thinking that the whole way across. Now, she let him in when she told him she can get him to settle, right? At that first chance encounter, when she opened up her mouth up in the rooftop and she says the deal about, hey, I think you would be good if you could settle yourself down. Like, I think I would be I think I'd like to show you that it would be something you could do. A relationship could be possible with you. Because he did open up and say that he's not the kind of person for relationships. Red flag. She just went along with it. Now, she left that up. And then this guy, in a very intricate sense, narcissist as hell, is able to go ahead and find out where she is. I feel like when the story comes across, the chance coincidence that the sister just happens to find a place where she needs to go and find a job, and Lily was willing to go ahead and offer the job to her. She does the job, sure, but it's like that separation where it's Ryle and it's this sister in place. Something doesn't compute right there. I had something wrong with that throughout. And of course, she's like trying to play off the, oh no, we're just going to be friends. So she's completely trying to brush him off, but he kept going. But because the guy is attractive and he's got like, 6-pack abs and all this stuff, and he's a neurosurgeon, like he's this catch of a guy for anybody else. For whatever reason, Lily's character wants to hold on to him anyway. He's not good for you, but it's like, I just can't help but go along with it. Like, I'm going to just hold on to him. He's not a guy that he's not a guy that I feel like he doesn't repulse me. Like, he's probably a good guy. Like, she's still trying to play along and think, well, this guy is a catch for anybody else. And like, he's looking at me of all people. And I feel like maybe she kind of looks at herself down because of the fact that, she's alone and she's on with this business, but it's like she has no one else in the world. And that's the thing where she's in this big city. She's away from family and all the shit that happened with her. She's never overcome. Like, it sounds like when we learn about all that happened to her in home and the parallels that happen between Ryle and what her dad did to her, we learn about so much about her trauma because we didn't know about really what it was that was really deep down inside that caused her to do things that she did. Why would she get herself into such a bad relationship? What a bad idea. This guy gave red flags across the board, but it's like, well, He's 6 foot tall, 6-figure income, probably has, well endowed more than 6 inches. He's got the whole, remember, women talk about that's the kind of guy they want. Remember the delusional women that are out there, all these modern women, they all want that guy right there. They want Ryle. Ryle could be no different than Christian Grey. So that's what we're seeing right here. And I get the appeal, right? I get it. But it's, again, too good to be true. And it is a story and a message that has to be said about, well, if you're going to get yourself caught with somebody like that, this is what's going to happen. Like, if you have a guy that doesn't want to just fool around, sleep with you, and then throw you away, they can do this to you too. And this can very well. And by the way, this is Narcissism 101 textbook. Like, what this guy was doing, I could see it, and I was starting to cringe because I was like, oh, I know what's going on here. And I could see it coming. I could see what he was doing. Love bombed her hardcore. Okay, karaoke, go out to this, go out to that, hang out together, da-da-da. All of it. It was like so perfectly done. This guy was putting it all on the line. That's like making it so easy. Hey, look at the nice apartment. Look at da-da-da. I got the friends. He's got everything going on right now to make her feel comfortable. Look, here's my family. See, here's me. Here's all our people together. And the right moment was the party, the birthday for the sister. And they're together. And then, of course, Ryle starts talking to another chick, does this whole thing where he's continuously putting it, oh, I can't stop thinking about you. But he's like, oh, here's the other girl he's talking to. And it's like, he's just kind of like chugging her along, just trying to rope her in. And she's trying so hard to not go ahead and get caught up in the trap. But it was a good trap. This guy did it, right? Too good to be true. She doesn't see it. She's a people pleaser. Bad father, domestic abuser, no father figure at all. So when she looks at this guy, it's like, well, there's good things about him. Look, he's, successful. He's got, the family around. Like he shows a lot of things that he feels like he's stable without knowing what his real story was about. And we learn about that later. But Ryle yo-yos her constantly because, like, her heart is unstable right now. So whatever he wants to do, he can basically just kind of like, shuck and jive her whatever he wants. And let's not mention the fact that Dad, her mayor dad, left Atlas for nearly dead when he caught her in bed with her. When he caught him in bed with her, right? Because they were going along and, things were kind of what it was. But yeah, Mayor Dad tried to almost kill him. Scumbag. And then we found out what he did to his daughter. We don't know everything that the mom went through, but the mom was a mess because of what happened to her too. She never got over what happened to her either because they're both alone in their thoughts, alone in their trauma. And who's there to go ahead and cope with them? There's nothing about therapy here, nothing about coping, nothing about a support system around to watch out for them after all this is done, right? And this guy, this narcissistic neurosurgeon hunk could rope her along and do anything he wanted to do with her. But once he is intimidated because high school sweetheart Atlas comes back because he's got the nice restaurant, he's grown up, look at him, he's blossomed, he's glowing now. He's like, look at him, he's become hunk too. Wasn't a bad looking guy before, but look at him. Like, he just like became like, look at this great guy. And Ryle can't have anything of it. He can't. No, you're not going to get in the way of her. And because she knew the story, knew the whole thing, and it's like, this is a threat. And Ryle treats it like a threat, like a bitch, Let's just call it like it is. He wants to go and fight him and all this kind of stuff, but like, you know what? There's enough women out there for anybody else. Listen, Ryle knows. Okay, come on, dude. You can have anybody you want. Do you need the girl at the flower shop? You wanted her because you could control her. You wanted her because she was vulnerable. That night on the rooftop, she opened herself up and she was completely vulnerable. And you wanted that, my friend. That's what made her attracted to you more than anything else. That's why you did that. You scumbag. And unfortunately, because Lily never really got a chance to go ahead and overcome her own issues, then this shit happens. And then once Atlas comes into play, yes, a little bit of me says, well, you know what? Atlas coming back into the play, I can understand why Ryle can be jealous. But the way he reacted, horrible. Unspeakable, unacceptable behavior. Because then he decides to use it and then goes in this whole level of like just trying to attack every chance he gets. Because, at this point, he's not saying anything about like, don't see him again, all this kind of stuff. He knows he can't do that kind of thing to her because, she would probably walk away. So he's playing along and just not saying anything, but he's going to punish her for every interaction with Atlas or anything that has to do with him at all. Because it'll be in her brain, and that's going to be enough for him to go ahead and punish. That's what happens. So the night after the restaurant, where we happen to see the chance encounter of Atlas serving their table at a restaurant he's working at, and then later gets his own restaurant, right? All that going on. And then Atlas comes by the shop, finds out where she works at, asks her, "Are you happy?" And then she confessed to dad's abuse, right? But this was also like, he knew about what Mayor Dad was doing to her in the first place, all that kind of stuff, right? But once again, whatever goes on here, the bullshit that this guy, Ryle, does to hurt Lily, monster compliments, does the whole crying bit, gets all emotional and soft, wins her back. And then the other thing, you see a couple of moments where he then just amplifies and escalates his shit. This bullshit he's trying to do on her. Okay, he not only is a narcissist, like this guy is also self-centered as fuck. Let's say it like that too. The sister's baby's delivered, right? Oh, they can't have the attention. Quickie marriage. Will you marry me? He does that, overshadowing the sister. Doesn't give a shit. He doesn't care. So he does that. They get married. Horrible reason to get married, but they've been around, and he also wanted to go make sure to hold her down so that Atlas, you're not going to get none of this. And then the problem is that she didn't let Atlas go, kept the number hidden in the phone. That was a sign, but man, that was the biggest one. That was like, oh, that's not good. So that's the first part where we start seeing the fits of rage. Creates accidents to hurt her. So this guy, psychologically, he's wanting to mind fuck her, trying to make it act like, oh, the accident was yours. Because when he hurts her, she's not going to remember. She's like, it's so damaging to her to do that. But then that scene when he shows her the magazine article, The Best of Boston. Let me tell you, masterclass of narcissism. Shows her, hey, look, there's your flower shop. Top 10 things best in Boston. But who's number one? Atlas's restaurant. Read it, Lily. Read it. And this is like, for him, he's already assaulting her already verbally. And this is just a lead up to the coup de grace that he wants to have anyway. Like, he needs to completely humiliate her. He needs to completely devolve her into complete humility and complete failure and complete guilt. He needs to bring her at such a low level that she feels like she's dirt. That's what he was trying to do. So that whole scene was very telling. The way that was done psychologically, man, that was like, man, any guy sees that, you want to go and beat the shit out of that guy, man. You saw what he was doing. You saw where he was going with it. And I could tell it was happening too. I could see where he was going to go with it. And then in the movie, which is an amazing thing, where they see the parallel where he assaults her, right? And she's trying to push back, trying to do whatever he can. But again, this is the marriage. So he's justified. Oh, I can do what I want with you. And he thinks this is a justified reason for him to go ahead and, make love to her, because he's turned on by what he's done to her, how he's turned her into. She's basically now back to where she was on the rooftop. It's like, oh, that's great. And now he wants to fuck her when she doesn't consent. And she shouldn't consent. This is completely wrong. She doesn't deserve that. And then there's the coincidence that, okay, She leaves the hubby, runs to Atlas's arms. Like, Atlas doesn't deserve this kind of thing either. This is like wrong here. But remember, we already saw that Lily was taking care of Atlas in his time of need. And now the tables are turned, and now Atlas is doing the same thing for her. And by the way, she chose for no rape kit, got pregnant. You know, some people are going to complain about the fact that you kept the baby, right? It's one of those things. I'm not going to talk about that part, but she kept the baby. And then they go along and he clothes her, feeds her, takes care of her, where she has no place else to go. And then the ending, when she decides to go ahead and the baby's delivered and Ryle's there and he's been given a chance to act a little more like, hey, you know, it's okay. You know, I'm here. And he feels like he has a chance to get back in with her again. He's playing along. Oh, I'll fix the crib for you, know, this and that. But then when he says, when he hits his daughter's arms, right? I'm going to keep you safe. Vulnerability on his end, and it tells you everything. It's like, What are you talking about, safe? Piece of shit. You think it was safe what you did? So she divorces him. Okay. Hey, tough decision. I'm not judging that part at all. That was a very tough decision on her part. I'm glad she learned a lesson. But then again, you know, how far do you want a woman to go ahead and make a mistake and fall into a mistake that's going to be so consequential for her that it causes her to become a single mom at the end? Obviously, she's well off. She's got family. She's got some support around her. But I'm just saying this could have been avoided. Now, I can't say so much about that. It's like she was given a bad hand because of what happened in her home as the character. Okay. That sucks. So she wasn't going to get a chance to have an even hand unless she had a chance to go and overcome what happened to her. But this guy right here, ultimate target on her. It's like he was just waiting for a girl like this to come along. So yeah, if he gets a chance to go after her again, he does. If it was just going to be a quick fuck, okay, fine. But that's all it should have been. Because she should have been smart enough to say, okay, you know what? I want to fuck this guy because this guy's got like all the whole nine, whatever. I want to do it just to have the experience. Fine. But nothing more than that. No friends with benefits either. Just like, okay, one night stand, done. But that's not what happened here. You know, it's the risk. And I'm telling you, women, if you think you're going to go and hold on to a guy that you think is going to have all these wonderful attributes, you were mistaken, man. You could find a Ryle like that. That is not outside of the scope of reality. That shit can happen. But then again, guys, we have to understand that there are going to be some women that are going to be like Lily that have gone through a lot of shit and they have not overcome and have not fleshed out or worked on what happened to them and try to, you know, bring themselves together so that they are not affected to make bad decisions that they don't know they're making. That's the part that's wrong too. She didn't know what she was getting herself into. That's my comments on the movie. Overall right there. Now, normally I would go and say, okay, we're coming up on 30 minutes. We're going to stop. No, I'm going to go a little longer tonight because I want to also get what the other people are saying about this and kind of just take the debate that's out there, bring it together and see what they're going to say. So we're going to go a little long tonight. Let's go into a few stories to talk about this. So as we said from Psychology Today, off the bat, right? The psychologist here says that the movie is a good example, but not supposed to be a guide. It's not a perfect manual for how to identify and leave an abusive relationship. It's not a step-by-step guide for everything a survivor should do, and it doesn't need to be. But remember, we're talking about the psychologist. I understand what she's saying there, but remember, she was a survivor before. Let's not talk about the most recent thing. In the story, Lily was a sexually assaulted victim by her father. That is a wreck in its own. And if she's never overcome that kind of thing, which you never overcome, I would totally imagine that. So they say that, you know, some people would pursue legal action, others may not. It's too reductionist to say that every survivor should get restraining orders or sue their abusers. How and when to leave an abusive relationship will vary depending on many factors, including the degree of financial resources, social support, dependence involved, and the survivor's emotional capacity. And no movie can give us a one-size-fits-all example for exiting abusive situations. I mean, the one thing that is good is the fact that she did get out of the mess. She did do that. I mean, that's a real important message in the story, is like, you can't take this shit. You need to get out. If she could have gotten out of it before she had a child with him, so that, she's not bringing a child in this world that unfortunately could have been a child that was conceived by rape. That's the part that could have happened. We don't know that based on the timing. We don't have that to go off of. But we could have very well seen that she decided to go ahead and deliver a baby and have the baby, even though that might have been the night that he, raped her. Could have been the night he conceived it. Just saying. I wouldn't have wanted to think that way, but it could have very well been that way. So really, is it the sociopathic maniac hurting someone without any remorse? More often, abuse occurs in a relationship that also has wonderful living moments and periods of peace, making it hard to recognize abuse. Yeah. For most narcissists, it's always like the love bombing and all that good stuff at the beginning, and then they have to go and yo-yo, get back to being good to go back and being bad again. How can a person be abusive when they're adoring, considerate, and silly most of the time? Right. The guy played all the traits of like the perfect boyfriend. When he played it, he was turning it on, he did it. Right? The abuse incidents, no matter how extreme or easy to explain away as mistakes, unintended actions, or something the abuser feels badly about and is therefore forgivable. Women need to understand, if they're in a relationship like this, you gotta find a way to get out. Because that right there is scary. Because I think there might be some women that might see this that decided to go to the theater because they've probably gone through relationships like this. That's probably why they went. They went to go and see it. Because they know the story, they might have read the story, and they realize it makes your head spin. But it's also the part where they show that Ryle, he makes you like he's a catch. As even the psychologist says here in the story, he isn't abusive 100% of the time. In fact, he's lovely most of the time. He's fun, cooks meals, sings karaoke, proposes in the most spontaneous romantic way. He's a catch. But then there's those moments where he's mean, controlling, jealous, and violent. And as short as they can be, they can create an unsafe climate in the relationship. No amount of fun, loving times, and those moments will change that. Now, that's the part that she talks about in there, which I understand where she's coming from with that. But this movie resonated a lot because there was a lot of people that went and saw this movie. $80 million this weekend on a $25 million budget. So it's a hit. And it could have helped a lot that Blake Lively has a lot of star power right now and probably helped the film's success. The critics panned this movie, 59%. Just 1% below fresh. But overall, people are really into it because it made a good number altogether. I didn't look what the number is as of recently, but it did do well overall. 93% right now from the audience. It's kicking ass. And I would absolutely say go watch the movie. Definitely worth watching. You got to see it once. It's quite a story. Quite a story to tell. Very well filmed. Great acting in it. Now let's get into some of the bad reviews on this so far. First of all, people complain about the fact that this movie might have been a rom-com. They talk about that the movie wanted to be hot and spicy, but have comedic moments. It wanted to examine something heart-wrenching, but also have a subplot about a long-lost adolescent love. I don't think I got that. I think you just wanted to bring something that was a little more like, felt somewhat realistic, but, they wanted to try to do something with it, but it's like, no, not really. Interesting things being said about the story. I don't know if this necessarily says a lot about the movie, but like there was a lot of stuff going on between Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds and their war with Justin Baldoni, the actor that plays Ryle, the narcissist in that movie. So there's word that Ryan Reynolds did some rewrites on the balcony scene where Lily and Ryle first meet. So the first scene of the movie. One of these stories from Pajiba.com. Don't ask me why it's coming, but I'm trying to look for negative reviews here, but they said that she's a perfectly serviceable actress who can often be good with the right material, but there's moments where she shines, but she flounders. The material is largely what's dragging her down, that the entire characterization of Lily Bloom is one of a barely sketched out woman with a lot of pain. Things happen to her, but there's no sense of an eternal life beyond that. That's also the fall of the book. And then with Baldoni's character, Ryle, is because the book and screenplay seem far more concerned with the abuser's emotional arc than his victims. He has the uncanny charm of a troubled man who thinks violence is the answer to everything, even if the conclusion of the entire story is conveniently neat and doesn't do that art justice. Now, that's one place that goes with it. And as we talked about, there was stories where Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively had some falling out, some at odds with each other because of this movie. So most of the cast members, as social media users with a lot of time on their hands observed, they started unfollowing Justin Baldoni on Instagram and sidestepped press questions about him entirely. The rumor that's most dominant right now is that Baldoni was rear-rolled by Blake Lively and her husband Ryan Reynolds during the movie's post-production, and that Baldoni made Lively uncomfortable on set, and the rest of the cast had sided with Lively in solidarity. So I'll tell you this. I don't know if there was so much about this part, about the rumors, but I'm just saying, listen, Justin Baldoni, I mean, I hope that's not the kind of guy he is in real life. But that's not who he is. And you know what? He did a good job acting because he was convincing. Like, I really believe that guy was a piece of shit. Like, the thing is, unfortunately, yeah, that guy's the villain. And you could feel that. You could totally feel that whole thing right there. So he did his job. He's going to take some flack for it because it's like, well, look at who he is. Like, you know, he doesn't come off of that smelling like roses at all, man. He looks bad. So I can imagine that Blake Lively having to do those roles with him. And if he's not necessarily like the most, you know, empathetic, like, I mean, he can't, there's only so much can be done as well, because it's like, you know, Blake Lively, she is married. She has kids. I don't know what Baldoni's deal is at all, but, you know, there's a lot of things going on along with all this together. But it's like, wow, there is something to be said about that. In the story, they also make point here from Slate.com, talking about the story about the drama between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. They make the point that seemingly every single character is unable to connect with another unless there's some backstory of extreme violence and abuse and trauma. That's Colleen Hoover for you. Okay, well, you know, I mean, those are just those kind of novels that go like that. I mean, I can understand that part. Like, okay, that's just her thing. But hey, Colleen Hoover, what she did right now, nobody's laughing about it anymore. Nobody's really panning it either. Currently $86 million worldwide. The movie's making money. And it's quite astonishing that, you know, along with Deadpool and Ryan Reynolds doing his movie, and what it's doing with that, breaking $1 billion, and the second most popular movie in the theaters, doing pretty well itself as it ends with us, with Blake Lively. And I think she did a pretty good job acting in that. Seriously, I think she did pretty well with that. You know, you can't really say much. Now, in the book, the same thing goes again. It starts with us, it ends with us, are the books that Colleen Hoover wrote. And the books, according to Katie Nying, that says this back in October 2022, that Hoover manages to butcher an extremely sensitive premise with the most flagrant execution possible. That tackling the idea of domestic abuse with depth, it has its moments through small infiltrations about a victim's mentality in an abusive household, struggling with victims, opening up to friends, learning how to empathize with other women in other situations. But mostly offset by the strangely hallmark-loving tone the entire duology decides to take, making the book sound humorous and benign in a way that domestic abuse is not. Well, if you want to feel that way. I don't think it was that like that at all, but oh well. And then there is the New York Times that also reviewed this. And they referred to the neurosurgeon looking like he got stepped out of a Calvin Klein ad. She befriends a wisecracking sidekick, opens a whimsical flower shop, endures heartache, and after much reflection and many plot complications, finds herself. But Lily takes her whatever life throws at her with her meticulously styled head up and a neo-bohemian influencer vibe. She's a dream of a woman, an aspirational ideal, an Instagram-era Mildred Pierce. And then they mentioned a bunch of the part here that even the kitschiest romances have a way of sinking their hooks into you, and so it is here, at least intermittently. Love stories work on us because love does, with the bonus that watching beautiful people suffer beautifully is the reason movies were invented. Yeah, that's another thing, that this movie really felt like that too. That's what soap operas were built off of, right? Rom-coms. Flashbacks add information, yet they also pull you away from the adult Lily. Fragmenting Lively's performance drains the slow-building momentum of her scenes. Just as unfortunately, Baldoni prettifies everything. Trees, cityscapes, people, to the point that each detail, pose and smile, seems lifted from a lifestyle instead of true, messy reality. Right. If it was a little more realistic. But just saying, it is fantasy, it's the movies, but, you know, they have to go and put this into a movie style, so it works. Hollywood style formula. But where else do you find a movie that actually talks about trauma in such a way like this? It's fascinating. And I must say that, you know, I hope that in the comments, I'd love to go in and get what some of you will think about this, about where my perspective comes from on this, because I know it's like, yeah, this is not the kind of movie that you expect me to go and talk about, but you know what? I was very interested in what this movie was going to be about and what I was going to get from it. But, you know, it's like there was just, the demand was there. I see all these people going to it. I'm like, well, I go to the movies all the time. I'm going to give this a shot. And I'm not disappointed in the fact that I went to the movie. I think it took a lot. And I think it came away with a message that, hey, it might not have been perfect, but I think more women need to realize, hey, Lily Blossom Bloom, don't marry that neurosurgeon guy. You want to go in and fool around, just do it a one-night stand. And do it depraved and debaucherous.